Honey, Dallas Barbecue in Chelsea, New York. Ooh, child. Oh, Lord. We have a longer clip where you're going to get to see more of the scuffle. And again, this is for narrative purposes. Viewer discretion, please be advised. But this one is a little more blurry, but you're going to get a little more of the story because, honey, you see, we only got that little snippet. Well, now we're seeing that there was quite a bit more before the chair came. But I showed y'all the snippet first because the snippet is what went viral. It's a lot of people who saw that snippet of the man getting hit with the chair, but they didn't know where that incident originated. They didn't know how it began. So yeah, so there you see we got a lot more context. There was a fight, and then when things started to be broken up, then that's when the man came and bust the other man with the chair. It was a gay couple. Gay couple. Let me find their names. Jonathan Snipes and his boyfriend Ethan Adams. They were drinking margaritas at Dallas BBQ when Snipes learned in the message that his uncle was ill. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading something else. Sorry about that, y'all. But no, they were drinking margaritas, and one of the guys found out that something was going on with his family. But we'll get to the story. We'll get to the full story in a minute. No, matter of fact, let's break it down while we're here. So Jonathan Snipes had got a call from his family saying that his uncle was ill. He started displaying his emotions, speaking loudly, and Ethan was grabbing his arms and begging him not to leave. While they were having their little disagreement, El-Amin, who is the person who hit one of the men with the chair, he said that these haggards over here spilling their drinks. Jonathan marched over to El-Amin and blurted, "What did you call us? You don't know us." And then he smacked El-Amin with a soft, small purse. That's what the article says. The hawking, as the article says, the hawking 6'5", 260-pound El-Amin hit and kicked Snipes, then stood up and tossed him on the floor. He lifted his leg and a large-sized foot stomped Mr. Snipes' head. Mr. Snipes, being a tiny man, unfortunately, his mouth isn't big and he couldn't scream. El-Amin became angrier and angrier while the victims' backs were turned. He picked up a wooden chair and smashed over their heads. To me, it looked like he only hit one person. That's the narrative. That this was a gay hate crime. The narrative is that it was a gay bashing on a gay couple from a hawking black Muslim man. And with the footage, especially the smaller snippet and no context, very much looks like Mr. El-Amin is the enemy. Mr. El-Amin stopped by the Femme Queen Crazy Sexy Cool channel. Link in the description of this video. Mr. El-Amin is the legendary Carlos Ebony. He sat down with the girls and he just got out, finished his sentence for the gay bashing, even though he's a gay man or queer man. I'll let him tell his story.
But what? Are you still at Ebony? Are you?
Well, that was my house that I left when I left. That when I went for my little hiatus. So, I have not officially separated from the Ebonies or whatever. I still love my family. I miss them. You know what I'm saying? But I have been kind of a distance separated from them since I had this whole situation happen because I've been away. So got on.
Okay, so to tell a little bit of history about Carlos, like he's been fathers of the House of Chanel,
Yes.
the House of Ebony.
Yes. I was the one who started the house in Detroit. Took over that house.
That chapter was sick.
Yeah, that chapter. I'm saying it was hot. And then became Father Ebony in New York. I was going to take over the position in Atlanta because my brother Rashad, rest in peace, Rashad was in his demise or whatever. And so, but I decided, Sanaya was like, come to New York. We need you in New York. We need you in New York. So I came to New York and did the thing up there. And then this happened. So
let's talk about what happened. People are probably like, what happened? But this was like in 2015.
The situation surrounding the incident was the fact that, and just let me give a little bit of background of who I was before. I have been an activist and an advocate in the community.
Absolutely.
In HIV and AIDS awareness and prevention for as long as I can remember, for 20 years. I've worked with some of the CBOs across the country. And I'm legendary father of a ballroom house, you know what I'm saying? So when I going into this situation, the night of this incident, and it happened Cinco de Mayo, which was May 5th of 2015, the incident occurred at a restaurant in the city. And there's always been, there's been a lot of talk about it since then. Like I said, this is my first time talking about it. But
we can't say the restaurant?
I don't want to because I understand that I'm going into this with the fact that this case is not over.
Okay.
I'm still adjudicating this case in court, you know what I'm saying? And I'm still fighting for my exoneration. I still have a case that's pending in federal court based upon this because I feel like my trial was unconstitutional. And because of that, there are certain things I can't say because this case may very well be retried. I have been staying away, and there have been, a young man had wrote a book about my case, and he reached out to me while I was incarcerated and asked me about it. And I gave him a bit of a quote for the book and everything, and he mentioned me in the credits. But I was apprehensive about it because of the fact that I was in a maximum security prison, and because of the fact that the people in the prison, I was not openly gay in prison. You know what I'm saying? I don't identify as that in that area because of the fact that it is a dangerous situation, especially because of the fact that I am a Muslim and I practice Islam. And so walking that line, having to walk realness for the amount of time that I was there kept me alive because I could have been killed. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I've always had to contend with. I had to contend with whether or not my story would get out. When the books were published and the books were given to the prison, I had to get the books taken out of the library, have people sneaking and take the books out of the library because I didn't want them to read it. you know. So it was a difficult thing, you know, to even navigate that. So it's a lot. It's a lot of nuances to the story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and because there's so much like I wanted to go to about that. I remember you telling me the things that you witnessed in prison and how, you know, people are treated, and let alone the like trans and gay people and stuff, and how taboo it is to even talk to them. And
it really is, and I really don't want to. I kind of want to. Before we get into that, I really kind of want to jump ahead because, like I said, a lot of people who have not ever heard the story,
I'm sorry,
have never don't understand what happened, and I think a lot of things that were false narratives that were publicized and sensationalized by the media were a part of the reason why my case was not tried fairly, and that's some of the things I want to address. I had left home that night. I was on my way to a breast cancer event. A friend of mine, his mom works for a company that offers the event every year. We went to Chelsea to go to the event. It was a formal event. I was in a tuxedo. You know, it was a formal event. We went down. We had a good time. We left. A couple of colleagues of his, a friend of his, we had left and went to this restaurant to have some food. While we were in the restaurant, there were two men in the restaurant who were drunk, and they had an altercation with one another, and that altercation spilled out to another table where the women were afraid. So as a man, I spoke up and said, "Hey guys, there's ladies here." Plus these were older ladies of color. So these gentlemen were white. And so when I said something, I think the onus was put on them because they were fighting with each other because they were trying to run out of the restaurant. And they were trying to run out because they were trying to not pay for their meal or whatever they had.
Oh my God.
And so the guy came over and he hit me in the head. He didn't push me. He didn't say anything. He just hit me in my face. He hit me in the side of my head with something. I didn't know what he hit me with. He rocked me. I'm 6'8" and 400 pounds. People don't really hit me. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody does hit me, I have to contend with the fact that this person is either crazy or out of their mind suffering some type of mental illness. They either have a weapon, a gun, or a knife that they can get out on me, or they're drunk or something going on. Either way, I have to know this person can't be in their right mind to put their hands on me. So I'm not Superman, but I know that people don't normally hit me. So when he did, and he stood, you know what I'm saying? Long story short, he reached on the table and he grabbed one of the utensils off the table and put it behind his back like he was gonna stab me with it. And the guy was given a direct path to me by the manager because the manager kind of backed everybody up and I saw it. So I had a female with me. I had a woman with me at the time and I was worried about her. I was worried about my safety. I was worried about the safety of the people I was with. And so I threw a chair at them. And they gave me 9 years from the chair. They didn't get just sustaining substantial injuries. They didn't get hurt. They didn't go to the hospital. They weren't seen at that night. They refused the ambulance. They left with a free meal. And I got charged with attempted first-degree assault, meaning that I intended to do deadly bodily harm against these men.
Oh.
And which made matters worse is that they decided after the incident to sensationalize this lie that I was a homophobic gay basher and that I stomped them and I called them racist, homophobic names as I was stomping them. They assumed that I was straight, obviously. And they basically made up this big story. There was someone in the restaurant who had filmed it on his video, you know, on his cell phone, and he took the cell phone footage and took it home and doctored it, and he only cut the part where I threw the chair and looped it, and it went viral. He put it on his blog, and it went viral. Millions of hits everywhere. It was on the news everywhere. Someone mentioned it to the governor. He said something about it. That's when Cuomo was governor at the time. Somebody mentioned it to de Blasio. He was mayor at the time. He said something negative about it. And think the stage was set because marriage equality had just passed. Gay pride was on its way here. Thousands of people were coming here, and they wanted a cause. It was the perfect storm for something like this to happen. A homophobic gay basher has come down to Chelsea, the heart of the gay community, and they have just hit these poor couple with this, trying to kill this poor couple. So it was a reason to rally. And because and I want to speak about this later, the polarization between the LGBTQ community and unfortunately, the distance between the white community and the Black and Latino community, immediately they rallied behind these white men and took their narrative as truth. The governor spoke out against me. The mayor spoke out against me. The Democratic State Senator, Brad Holman, who's, I don't know if he's still acting state senator, the councilman from Chelsea led an anti-hate rally and marched people to the restaurant and brought these guys out like they were heroes. And the restaurant even put a big poster board in the window and said, "We don't condone LGBTQ violence. We don't condone this type of behavior. We're going to find this attacker and bring justice for these victims." Because the night it happened, once I threw the chair, I grabbed the girl I was with and I came about the restaurant because she was a friend of my friends who I went down there with. Because I needed to get away. We needed to get away.
Right.
So, long story short, it went to trial. There was a lot of things that happened in my trial that were unconstitutional. There were things that happened that were biased because of the fact that I am who I am. And when they found out my last name is El-Amin and that I'm a practicing Orthodox Muslim, it fit the narrative that this person was a homophobe, because there was a lot of Islamophobia playing at the time as well. And that played a lot into my case. The media's coverage, they had me actually on the cover of the newspaper with the Twin Towers behind me saying "a towering terror." You know what I'm saying? And it was a whole thing. And so I was sentenced disproportionately. I was given 9 years, although I had never been convicted of a violent crime in my life. I had never been convicted of a crime here. I had not had a charge against me in 20 years. I think I had a misdemeanor back in something that was not even a felony here years ago. And there was no prosecution for them. They wouldn't even allow me to press charges against them or even sign a statement against them. I went to the police because the police said, "We saw the footage from the restaurant. Come in and give your statement." I went in and they arrested me. They didn't allow me to do that. They violated my rights. And, in our country, we have a certain thing called equal protection under the law, which is the 14th Amendment. If they were able to press charges against me, I should have been able to press charges against them, and they didn't allow that. What his narrative was that he heard us call someone a homophobic slur, because he said they spilled their drinks at their table, and we said, "Look at those Fs over there spilling drinks." He said he heard that from our general vicinity. So he walked over. This is what he said in the media. He walked over and said, "What did you say?" And I just jumped up and started beating him. But let's just say this happened in reverse. If I, as a man, my size, my stature, my color, had gotten up and walked over to this table and put my hands on him for something that I thought he said, he could have shot me and got away with it. Mm-hmm. If it was a situation, he could have said, "That big dude came over here and busted me in my head with something, and I thought he was gonna kill me, and I shot him." Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't have done a day. You know what I'm saying? But here I am, the one in prison. I am happy that I had the community that I had, the sense of community that I had, the brothers that I had in there, even though they didn't know the truth about me, even though if they had found out about me, I would have had to contend with fighting for my life. And that's just the reality of the situation. One of the brothers who was in there with me recently was just almost killed. And I just found this out when I was sitting in the parole office, because one of the Muslim brothers that I we go to the same parole office, and I saw him, and he was in Clinton with me, and he said, and by the way, they put me in a maximum security prison with guys with life without, guys with 150 years. They put me in there, and I had never even been in prison before. So
people who ain't got nothing to lose.
Right.
No, me too.
So he had just told me that one of the brothers was caught giving food to a trans girl that was in that he, I guess, favored, and when they found out about it, and they stabbed him up. This just happened recently. So, it is. What I really, really want to convey to people to understand, no matter how many initiatives they say they have started, Black, trans, and queer people are not safe in New York state prisons. I can't speak on prisons anywhere else because I haven't been there, but in New York state prisons, in the maximum security prison that I was in, the medium that I was in, and the general consensus is they are not safe. They are not safe.
At all. We are not safe.
I don't care. This narrative that people think about what happens to pedophiles or people who have committed crimes against women or rapists or whatever, that they are somehow abused or hurt in prison is not the case. Mm-hmm. The worst thing you can be in prison is trans. The worst thing you can be in prison is gay, and that is the truth. That is the truth. You cannot be seen talking to them. I could get hurt for even talking. If I'm Muslim, I can be hurt for even talking to them.
Yes.
Even being seen, having a conversation with them. I've gone through different waves of feelings. There's been a lot of loss. I lost a lot of my life. I lost, loved ones, family members. My mother succumbed to cancer while I was away, and I wasn't able to go to her funeral or even mourn her death because, mourning is crying or walking around, and that kind of disposition is seen as a weakness, and they prey on the weak. And so I couldn't even mourn my mother's death. I lost my nephew, was killed to gun violence a few months ago, and I've just recently gotten home. And also, too, my trans daughter that was killed in Atlanta, shot in the head. I don't know if you know Coco.
Coco.
And
that's where I know her from. That was your daughter.
Yeah. And then my brother Jahad was killed as well. So I took a lot of losses. So it was difficult not to fold up and become angry or bitter because I would have wanted retribution, And there's no evening out justice for me at this point. Monetary value didn't give me justice. I mean, I lost more than they could ever give me back. Jesus. And so I had to turn inward and find my purpose and say to myself, to whom much is given, much is expected. And know that I have always been a leader and I've always been a person who has advocated for people in my life and been my best when I have been in service to others. So I decided that to best service myself, that I should try to give back to the community. And that's why I'm here now, because I want to shine light on what happened with these people and the plight of what they're going through there so that I can get some help for them. And also some of the people who have helped me, people from the ACLU, people from Black and Pink, but in particular, an organization called F2L. It's called Fight to Live. And it was started by a good friend of mine who's become a good friend of mine. They are gender nonconforming. Their name is Mitchell Mora, and their pronouns are they, them. And they saw my case, came to the jail where I was, and immediately jumped into action. F2L is a network that is a nonprofit organization now that has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for people incarcerated. I'm saying strictly for people incarcerated. The money, the 100% of the proceeds that they are given go directly to people who are in the network, who are incarcerated, who need things. And like I said, the plight of the trans people and gay people in prison, they are isolated. They are not, a lot of them don't have family. A lot of them don't have friends that were able to give them anything. And, they need, a gender affirming clothing, commissary, cigarettes, some food, something like that. It's easy for them to go in debt because the one thing that they can be talked to about is drugs. Like, if you're straight, you can sell them drugs. That's the only thing you can talk to them about. But they get strung out on debt and they either turn into sex work or something like that, or they get hurt because they can't.
Sex work in the jail?
Oh, they get turned out by some people, you guys. Got some guys.
I was saying, like,
Listen,
yes, this is why I said if you act on your intentions, you can get in trouble.
I didn't know that.
Right?
Was
so no. Yes, you can. Right?
I thought you were just sleeping around.
No. Sometimes, like you will get into debt and you will owe someone, and because they're not out to everyone, they will have you do something for them later on when no one else is around.
And it's violent. It's not something that's really sexual. It's violent. You know what I'm saying? These people are being hurt. Honestly, I can't. I honestly can't tell you how difficult it is to have seen this and witnessed it and not be able to do or say anything. So I started, clandestinely sneaking and talking to them and getting their information so that Mitchell could get them the help that they need. And they would slip me their DIN number and everything, and I would give it to Mitchell, and Mitchell would put them in the network to make sure they get money in their commissary accounts. And I did this for a number of people that came through, young people that came through. And it helped. And it gave me a sense of helping them. And now they're part of the network, and Mitchell talks to their families, and they're really getting some assistance, but they need more.
Because of the plight of the trans people and the gay people we talked about earlier, do you think there should be like a separate dorm for people who are gay and trans?
I have to say that if it was a situation that it would help them, then I'd be for that. I understand. I mentioned that with Tabitha. I heard what Tabitha said earlier about some of the things that could possibly arise if they were put together, and some of the things that and that is a good point. However, I think that the safety, just from a safety standpoint, if I could get you away from somebody that I know would kill you, if I can get you away from somebody who I know hates you just because they want to hate you and would hurt you just because of that, if I can separate you from them, then I would want to separate you from them. Right now, there is legislation in New York, and it's called the Gender Identity, Respect, Dignity, and Safety Act.
Right, that's being lobbied in Albany
It's being
right now.
lobbied right now, and I think it's A709A. Lawmakers are being asked to pass this bill because it is going to preemptively assign housing to people according to their gender identity, and force or require, I should say, jails and prisons to recognize a person for their gender identity as they are and respect their pronouns and give them gender affirming clothing and gender affirming toiletries and things of that nature, and also not allow them to be placed in a segregated housing for more than 30 days based upon because a lot of times what's happening now is if there's a situation where some of these trans women are saying that they are in danger, they're being placed for an indefinite amount of time in segregation. And it's just like they're being imprisoned for being in fear. And that's something that can't happen. But if it's a situation where they are given their own equal housing and they are able to have access to all the facility and the things that they need, then I think that it would be better than having to worry about being hurt because somebody's just trying to make a name for themselves, or they think you said something, they think you looked at them the wrong way. Hopefully some type of legislation comes out that would help the queer community as well, because they are just as oppressed and in danger.
I really want to the whole prospect of being a queer Muslim. How do you intersect that now, being home?
So this is a question that has been put to me a few times because I'm sort of an anomaly when it comes to this. I don't think that I am alone. I know that I'm not alone when it comes down to this, because it's said that there's 24% of our 24% of the world's population are Muslim. 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. So I can't be the only one, obviously. And I know that I have contended with this throughout my life. How do I sit at this intersection of being a man of color, being Orthodox Muslim, and being a person that identifies as being queer? It has been different throughout my life. And, I've stood at different parts of this intersection at different times in my life. What I will say is that I believe what I believe because Islam is the religion that I was born into, is the religion that I knew. It's a religion that has always given me peace. I've found peace in the religion, and not because of some of the things that are, I would say, negative, or some of the things that would necessarily hurt other people, but because of the purity of the faith, because we are taught that every life has reason and every life should be respected. And I think that men have twisted a lot of the things in the doctrine to fit their own narrative and have made it appear that it should be that Muslims oppress other people, and we shouldn't.
How would have pretrial freedom helped you?
Well, let me just say that the narrative is that, queer and trans people of color are more disproportionately criminalized, unfairly, disproportionately sentenced, and we face what we face in the prison system. It's a pipeline, and it's a beast, and the beast has to be fed. Being in the belly of the beast means that that's exactly where you are. In my particular incident, there was a botched, it was botched in the entire process of the investigation process. And the narrative was that I was again, homophobic gay basher who was out to hurt these people. And even when the NYPD pulled the surveillance footage from the restaurant the day after the incident, and they saw that this man came and attacked me, they didn't change that narrative in the media. They let the media go on with it. Because this case became so hot, the hate crimes, because of these allegations that this man had made against me, the hate crimes unit investigated it. So the media kept portraying that this was being touted as a hate crime. And even though this hate crime unit, when they realized that it wasn't, when they found out who I was, when they realized who I was after speaking to certain people, and they knew, and they saw the footage and they knew it wasn't a hate crime, they didn't push this onto just a regular assault. They kept the case. And they kept the narratives going that it was being looked at by the hate crimes unit, and it was being spun that way. So it made me look like a homophobic gay basher. It also didn't help that the Robert Boyce, who at the time was the lead detective at NYPD, got on a press conference and said that I was a violent career criminal who had most likely fled the state because of the fact that I was not around. But when I left the restaurant and I left and I realized that I needed to get legal counsel, and I had a situation where at the time I was taking care of my godfather, who's much older, he's like in his late 70s, early 80s at the time, I did not come directly to the police in this situation. And I always said to myself, I know there's a camera over my head. If something was to happen, that it just was something, I know they're going to look at this and find out what the truth is because of the fact that I've been in this restaurant before. People know me. People know that I did. And this person attacked me, and everybody in the restaurant saw it. So there was plenty of witnesses. That didn't happen. The restaurant released the footage to the NYPD, and they didn't say anything. They wouldn't release the footage to us. So we didn't have the footage from the restaurant. The only footage that was out was of the cell phone video that this person had took and doctored and made it and put it on his blog, and just put a wild night out in Chelsea and just put the list to his blog because at the time, I guess the guy was a intern for Love and Hip Hop and he wanted some traction to his blog. And so that's what happened with that. And so again, like I said, in answer to your question, I was probably expected to stay in because they gave me this disproportionate bail based upon my income and what I could afford. You know, they made my bail, not only did they make my bail $75,000, but it was a surety. Like I had to put up a property bond, and I didn't own property. And it was just the fact that I was able to get my godfather to put up his property. That was the reason I was able to get out. And even when the bond was posted, they did not release me. I was involved in a class action suit against Rikers facility because of the fact that they kept me and held me longer than they were supposed to before releasing me. And when they did release me again, like I said, there was no mention made of any type of charges being brought against the men who attacked me. Having a certain amount of anxiety about even wanting to step out into the world or go places or go to a restaurant or be around people that you haven't been around or whatever, you know, not knowing how you'll be perceived, not knowing if you are in danger. And there's certain prison safety guards that I have still. Like I have.
They call it institutionalized.
Right. You know, for example, I can hear what's going on behind me. You know, more so than I used to. I get a private problem with people standing behind me. Loud noises. You know, certain things. I wake up out of my sleep quickly, and it's just.
It's those things, like when you go to the yard and how you literally had to scan the yard quickly because if you didn't know where the target was, you might have been the target.
It's going to go down.
So learning those type of things, and I was sharing with you privately earlier, like when the doors used to slam, it was a trigger for me.
Are you going to step back into Ballroom?
You know, when the time is right, again, like I said, you know, I've been part of the Ballroom community for almost 30 years now, you know, and it's been a week, you know. So, you know, and shout out to my brother Stuart, you know, that's my birthday twin. I wish I could have been there last night. You know, our birthday's on the same day. But I wish I could have been there last night for that and to see your thing. But I have these stipulations on me that I have to be, you know, I have to, you know, quarter stipulations that I couldn't be out at a certain time, so I couldn't be out last night, unfortunately.
Do you be getting a little itch? Do you be having a little itch?
Of course.
What, 9 o'clock curfew? Who want to be announced at 9 o'clock?
You know what time it is. You know what I do when I get out. You know what I'm saying? You know what it's giving. So,
you know what it's giving?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
He said, you know what it's giving?
So y'all been sitting around, you know, a lot of things have happened since I've been away. You know what I'm saying? So I need to get back in there and take this thing up.
But we do got some questions.
Let the legends come on back out. You know what I'm saying? I need to see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I need to represent for my brother, God rest his soul. You know what I'm saying? I need to represent for my brother who wrecked Legendary Realness, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For him and for, you know, and also, you know, I come from a legacy of that, you know what I'm saying? And it's one of the reasons why I joined the House of Ebony, because of the fact that, you know what I'm saying, they have a bloodline of realness. And you know, I respect the fact that, you know, Dre and, you know, Roy and a lot of the other brothers, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to all of our realness brothers, you know what I'm saying? Face and all of them, you know what I'm saying? They are out doing their thing.
Oh, you is shouting them out. Let's go.
Yeah,
cover it.
Definitely, you know, I would probably, when the time is right, say you never know. So these categories come up, make sure y'all ready, prepared, because you might see me out there. You might look over your shoulder. You might look over your shoulder and say, uh-oh.
That's real. That's all day, bro. Damn it.
George M. Johnson, who is, I'm telling you, I can't speak enough about him. or them, I should say, and they are just honestly the James Baldwin of this generation. I mean, they wrote a book, and the book is called All Boys Aren't Blue. Harry's book, the book that mentions me, is Black Boy Out of Time by Harry Zayed, and George's book is amazing. It's about his life and his experiences growing up as a young queer person of color, and how he came of age. And the book, unfortunately, was banned by the state of Florida, and he sued the state of Florida. And the book is a New York Times bestseller. He just was nominated for an Emmy for the audiobook, and he has like a 6-book deal. He's writing his 4th book right now, and he's helping me kind of put things together. He's also a garçon. He's in a house of garçon, yeah.
Have you ever dated a femme queen, and if not, would you? Name who? Ooh.
Oh God! Just to give you water.
Let me just say that I recognize the beauty in all things, and there are some beautiful women out here, honestly. And I'm not opposed to it at all. I never have been, and there has been a couple over the years who have garnered my attention, but have I ever publicly dated or been with? No. You would have known this. But I know that there are a few that, a couple in particular that have had their eye on me, and I may have had my eye
baby,
on.
they used to want to throw their drawers at you. They like, I
guess,
I'm like, girl.
that comes from, that's just, I think a lot has to do with my size, my stature, just that, you know what I mean? But, it's to get to know the person, but yeah.
They be like, that's a man. A big old man.
Yeah, crazy.
Next question.
But I ain't gonna say who. Would you get back with Bre Ebony?
Oh. We're talking about the iconic pioneer, Bre Ebony.
Is that who we talking about?
We talking about Dre.
Okay, so let me just say, first of all, shout out to Dre.
Y'all been long time
She said,
friends.
"Go ahead."
So Dre and I have been longtime friends. We've had a long relationship as friends, and he's always been someone who I've looked up to and admired on the ballroom scene, because not only because of his ballroom prowess itself, his ballroom IQ, I would say, but because of the fact that he was the undisputed leader of the house after Larry had left, and he was the one who was making it known. And he's, as much as a leader as Jihad was, this is Jihad's father, you know what I'm saying? And he was unquestionable when it came down to the way he moved in the scene, in and out of the scene. It wasn't just the fact that at that time, it wasn't just the fact that the Ebonys were just a ballroom house. The Ebonys was a street house, you know what I'm saying? And they moved it, you know what I'm saying? They did it. And so I respected him for that. But then I respected the transition that he made to go step away from that life and become someone who wanted to advocate for the community, and become someone who wanted to get back to himself and decide to go back to school at a later age in life and get his master's degree, and do all the things that he's done, all the accomplishments he's done. He's the definition to me of an icon. And it was just a situation that happened, and we were together, and this was not something that was easy because of the fact that we were two people who were prominent figures in the ballroom and leaders in the ballroom, and 2 male figures in the ballroom that, what I'm saying, people are like, well, what y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? Because of the fact that we are 2
Who's zooming who?
Right. And people,
Who's zooming who?
You know what I'm saying? But
So would you be back with him and I?
no, like I said, I feel like our relationship has evolved from that. I mean, who knows what would happen? What would happen in the future? I mean, it's not like I love Dre like as a person, you know what I mean? But I just feel like our relationship has evolved beyond that. I mean, I'm saying that now, but who knows? I mean, who knows what life brings.
You heard it here.
Oh, you heard it here, honey. I'm trying to find a picture of Dre. Ebony, to pull up for y'all, honey, so that all who don't know can have some context, baby, of the icon, honey, iconic. All right, let me make sure. Oh. All right. I think we got a picture. I think we got a photograph. Honey, yes. I wanted to let Carlos speak because I feel like his story was so powerful. And trust and believe, I didn't even want to interrupt them. Y'all seen me looking down, I was taking notes. But like I said, his story is so powerful, and I think it needs to be heard, and nobody could tell it better than him. You know what I mean? But woo, essentially he's been pegged in the news as this huge gay bashing black man Muslim, when in fact he's a legendary ballroom butch queen. When people talk about the intersection of black and queer, what are you first? Are you gay or are you black? What are you first? Are you trans or are you black? Baby, the people gonna see black before they see anything else. And they're gonna treat you as such. Trust and believe, over here in the LGBTQ plus community, we are still niggas. Don't get it twisted, honey. Don't make no assumptions. Now, Dre told his story. Dre's story has stayed the same, has stayed consistent. He said that in court, the narrative was that, he was calling them slurs while he was hitting them and while they were fighting and this and that. I didn't hear not Narfagula come out nobody's mouth during that whole fight, honey. I didn't hear a lot of fussing and arguing other than, break it up, what's going on, stuff like that. Y'all could take it back. I'm not going to re-traumatize you with the footage, but y'all could rewind it back and look yourself. I didn't hear no slurs being called, honey. And just on the fact that Dre is queer, and he was clearly painted in the article that still exists. If you look it up now, gay couple, Chelsea Dallas barbecue, the news articles are still there. One thing that I did like that Carlos touched on. I'm sorry, Carlos. I believe Carlos needs to be retried. I think I was calling him Dre. I have a habit of doing that, calling people by the wrong name. But I think Carlos needs to be retried. I think Carlos definitely needs to be retried. His story has stayed the same. Their story has been inconsistent. He's not this big terrorizing terrorist as they proclaimed in the news. He is a legendary ballroom butch queen and AIDS HIV awareness advocate, and always has been. And now he's wrongful incarceration advocate as well. But one thing that I like that Carlos did bring up is I like how he told the truth about his interactions as a queer man in jail. He didn't paint some picture like it's so fab. I know a lot of times the girls get on here and they talk about how fab it is, and they got to have the trade and blah blah blah. Not a fab situation. Most of the times when the girls are having the trade, honey, it is non-consensual. They don't get to pick and choose when they want to have them, even if it's somebody that they do find attractive. And it's very likely and oftentimes violent. They don't really give you your hormones. You'll be lucky if you get hormones, but if you do, you're going to get the smallest possible dose that they can give you. They're not going to follow your hormone regimen from when you're free and when you're outside of the gated community. They commonly segregate the girls. I know from my own personal experience, they commonly segregate the girls. They commonly put you in solitaire for long periods of time. I'm glad that he brought that up because it's why prison in particular changes a lot of the girls, changes a lot of butch queens, and changes a lot of trans women, because your mental changes. You are more prone to schizophrenia when you spend large periods of time alone with nothing but your own thoughts. Your thoughts starts to become louder and louder. Yes, it's scientifically proven. You can look it up. And I also like how he spoke about the intersectionality of being queer and being a Muslim. Yes, 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 yes. He also gave a shout out to George M. Johnson, who is also a member of Ballroom, who is also part of the House of Mugler. Who is also part of the House of Garçon. George M. Johnson, who is also a garçon. Yeah. Yes, baby, honey. George, the book that he was mentioning, y'all have probably seen this book. It definitely made headlines when this book was banned in Florida. It is a highly recommended best-selling book. All Boys Aren't Blue. I definitely recommend you checking that out. Also, the other book that he brought up, let me get this. The other book that he brought up is Black Boy Out of Time. Black Boy Out of Time, honey. Yes, yes, yes. By Herziad. Yes, 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 honey. Child, I love to see it. But yes, yes, yes. If you are a book reader, honey, and you are a book fan, feel free to check out those publications. I recommend them, honey baby. And the organization that he was talking about is F2L. This is their Instagram page. Fund_the_inside. Honey. Yes, yes, yes. Their effort is we are a community effort working to end the incarceration of Black, Indigenous, and or people of color who are queer, trans, and or two-spirits in New York. Yes, yes, they are a New York-based organization. If you or anybody you know is wrongfully convicted, please contact and use some of these resources